Welcome, everybody, to the March 6, 2018 Board of Commissioners meetings. Please silence your cell phones, pagers, and other electronic communication devices. Agendas are located at the back of the room of the chambers if you need to pick up one. At this time, we're going to do a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and Connie Bertolato is going to lead us into that. Thank you, Connie.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Connie. Next is item 4, review and approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve?
Moved by Ms. Hadcock,
Second.
seconded by Mr. DeSanto to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hear none, all in favor indicate by aye and a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Fairby,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. Next, we have the consent agenda, and I'll recognize Ms. Holly Hennies.
Good morning, Commissioners. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses the consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the Board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes from the special meeting of February 13th, 2018, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting February 20th, 2018, approval of the minutes from the special meeting February 23rd, 2018, and approval of the minutes from the special meeting February 27th, 2018.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Is there anybody from the public that would like any of those items 6, 5, 6, 7, or 8 removed? Seeing none, is there any from the board that would like those moved, any of those removed? Seeing none, I'd look for approval of the consent agenda 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Move approval.
So moved.
You want to take the second, Mark? Approved by,
Second that.
okay, approved by Hadcock, seconded by DeSanto to approve the consent agenda 5, 6, 7, and 8. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval indicate by saying aye in a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Fairby,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. Next on our agenda is, our regular agenda is a presentation of Adopt a Highway program and certifications and appreciations by Ms. Connie Bertolato.
Good morning. I am here today, we have an Adopt a Highway program, and I'm here today to recognize the participants from last year that participated. We had 53 organizations that participated, and they did cleanup on 116.12 miles of roads. So we had really great participation last year. We had one group drop out, so I do have one road up for adoption, and it's Nemo Road from Potter Road to Rolling Hills Road, and it's about a 2-mile stretch, just so we know. Otherwise, I had 7 groups that are going to be here this morning to receive their certificates. The rest of the groups, I will be mailing their certificates to them, so they couldn't be here this morning. So with that, I'll do my groups. My first group is the 28 AMXS.
Thanks.
The 28th Logistics Readiness Squadron. Air Force Sergeants Association. Cub Scout Pack 74. The Hargens family. had their grandkids here, but they didn't make it. Western Dakota Insurers.
All right.
WL Plastics.
Thank you, Connie. I just want to take a moment to thank all the volunteers for all their help and hard work and working with the county and keeping the roads picked up and so forth. I mean, 116 miles is a lot of roadway to be picking up, and especially after a day like yesterday with the winds, it's going to be a tough one. It's bad all over the place. So we really appreciate your work and your dedication and your community service.
Chairman,
Mrs. Hadcock.
I'd like to ditto what Commissioner LaCroy just said. That's a lot of work, and it's 53 organizations with 116 miles. So we really appreciate everything and all the organizations that have helped our highway department. So thank you very much.
Any further comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you, folks. Next, we come to item number 10 from the auditor. KJ.
Good morning, KJ Peterson, Chief Deputy Auditor. We have a notice of a supplement request coming from the Sheriff's Office that is the result of damaged beyond repair vehicle in which we received an insurance check in the amount of $25,067.48. And the Sheriff's Office will be replacing that. It looks like in addition to the supplement motion, and I'd ask if we did motion number 1 already. Did we get that done on consent 2 weeks at the last meeting? I wasn't here.
Yes, we did do the 20th.
Okay, I wanted to make sure if we hadn't included that. So the only motion then we'll need is to approve the 2018 supplement to the General Fund Sheriff's Office in the amount of $25,067.48 from current year non-budgeted revenue.
Move approval?
Motion to move approval of the supplement,
Second.
seconded by Ron Buskerud. Any further discussion? Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye, and a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, KJ. Next, we have items from the treasurer. I'll recognize Janet Saylor.
Good morning, Commissioners. Janet Saylor, Treasurer. Before you, you have a resolution adopting a credit card policy and the use of credit cards in Pennington County. I stand for any questions that you might have with this.
So you're requesting a motion for approval of the credit card policy.
Motion to approve?
Motion's been made to approve the Pennington County Policy and Procedure Resolution adopting credit card use policy. Is there a second? I'll second for discussion. George, did you have any questions? I know you had it continued, so.
Well, I understand what the law says, by resolution established policy. We've got a big, thick policy handbook, and I'm thinking that this policy should be in that book. The resolution should establish the policy, but then the policy should be written separately. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, George. Is there any discussion from Ron Buskerud or Ron, do you have any thoughts on this?
I don't. I guess I'm fine with it.
Okay, Mark? DeSanto?
Yeah, I just wanted to I wanted to ask how we came to the credit limit. Is this primarily used for travel, or do we use it for other things?
It's used for travel, and it's used for Sometimes when things are ordered over the internet, you have to have a credit card in order to do those. And the, excuse me, and the amount is established by the department head or the elected official on how much they want on that credit card. It's not done by the
Okay.
county at this point.
Okay. I'll just say, Janet, I think the policy that you read up is good. After having to do some tracking on company credit cards with people, it needs to be clarified, and I think this is doing the job that you want, or is gonna help do the job that you need to have done.
And as far as putting it in policy, commissioners, it has to be passed as a resolution before it can be entered into county policy by law and by direction of the state's attorney's office.
Okay. See no further discussion. There's been a motion by Hadcock, seconded by LaCroy for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by aye. Roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
Next, we come to item number 12, abatement applications. I'll recognize Shannon.
Shannon Rittberger, Director of Equalization. Caught me by surprise. You're moving along quickly this morning. I didn't get a nap. Okay, so there's several abatement requests. We'll probably go down through one by one. The first one is Church of Saint, maybe Therese is how you say that. There are 2 abatement requests on that. The church bought a property and they tore down the buildings. The buildings were removed on it,
Okay. Move
or
approval.
at least most of the buildings.
Hold on, are you done?
Yes.
Okay. So you're doing,
One
Decided
to do one at a time instead of,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, there's, with Church of St. Therese, there's 2 abatement requests, but those, I recommend you grant both of those. And then we'll go to the next property.
I would move for approval on both of St. Teresa's abatements.
Second.
Moved by DeSanto to approve both the St. Teresa's abatements, seconded by Hadcock. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye and a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Okay, the next one, Feuerbacher, that's an abatement request that comes from the property owner. He has told Holly that he couldn't be at this meeting. Holly requests that you continue it to the next meeting.
Move to continue till March 20th.
It's been moved. Was that you that seconded Ron or Mark?
Busker.
Ron.
Okay. Moved by Hadcock, seconded by Ron Busker to continue to the 20th meeting. Further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye and a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Next on the agenda, it says City of Box Elder, Campus Court LLC, and Brink. There's 4 abatement requests that come to you from my office. All 4 of those properties were purchased by Ellsworth Development Authority, which is exempt from property taxes. These abatements make the property, change the tax on the property to account for that part of the year Ellsworth owned it.
Okay.
Move approval.
Been moved by Hadcock for approval,
Second.
seconded by Busker. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye and a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Yes.
LaCroy.
Aye.
The last abatement request is Lighthouse Partnership Incorporated. This request comes to you from the property owner, and the property owner and Mr. Kurt Soleil are here to represent that property. But I would like to introduce this. This is an argument over the exemption on the property. The property was granted an exemption from property taxes as a charity several years ago. There was no application for exemption in the years since, and I have made a recommendation that you deny it because there was no application. I want to change my opinion on that. I ask that you grant it, and that is specifically because statute 10-4-19 says that if there is no application for an exemption after the property's already been granted an exemption, then that prompts a review by the Board of Commissioners, which would typically come at Board of Equalization when you review all applications for exemption. That review didn't happen in this. I've been talking to the state's attorney and the other offices about this for quite a while. A lot of time spent on this yesterday. The auditor, the treasurer, state's attorney were in agreement with this. Ask that you grant the exemption for the years requested here. And Mr. Soleil would like to speak to the board as well.
Okay. Mr. Soleil, could you please come up and identify yourself?
Thank you. I'm Kurt Soleil. I am an attorney for the Taxpayer Lighthouse Partnership, Inc. Dr. Drew Purdy and Jody Purdy are here as well, and they were the founders of the charity and are two of the board members. I don't think there's any question that the property at 320 Cleveland Street is exempt for charitable purposes, for charitable use. It's a group home for disabled women from Black Hills Works, and it was granted exemption in 2013 through kind of a series of mistakes. The property tax with is an incorrect address or incorrect address on the deed, so the tax notices were never received by the taxpayer. The address was incorrect, and the annual report was not filed on an annual basis for the tax exempt status. However, as the Director of Equalization just stated, the process, our concern is that the statute -19 here, the review process was not followed under the terms of the statute. Once in the event that an exempt property, the annual statement is not filed, the Director of Equalization shall do a review of the status of the property, and that the problem here was never done.
I was just going to say, Kurt.
They're granting this, you understand?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just so you know that.
Yeah, I will, yes, and so if the county commissioners have any questions, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but if there are any questions, I will certainly answer.
You got a good recommendation coming so far, so.
Okay, thank you.
We'll call you up if we have any questions. Shannon, do you have something to follow up on?
Yes, I need to follow up. The auditor's office requests that if you grant this, that in your motion you specifically state that it's granted according to State Statute 10-4-19, which specifies the review that's needed, and the abatement statute 10-18-1, reason 3 is where it's granted.
Okay, so.
That'd be
good.
my motion.
Motion to approve by Hadcock,
Second.
seconded by Farabee. Any further discussion?
I do, Mr.
Hold
Chairman.
on. I'll recognize Ron Busker.
Okay, I got a question for Shannon. I see the tax certificates were issued on these. Did somebody else buy them?
Yes, the tax certificates were sold to someone other than the county, And the abatement statute specifically states that an abatement cannot be considered if there's an outstanding tax certificate, but the property owner has paid the taxes, and those tax certificates are gone now.
Okay, so in other words, the county is not only going to abate the taxes, we're also going to pay the interest on them.
I'm not sure about that. I think
Well,
so.
yeah, you are. Is the abatement for just the taxes or for what they paid to get the tax certificates back?
It's a better question for the treasurer. I think it's for the whole amount.
So a mistake cost us quite a bit of money.
I'll recognize Ms. Janet Saylor.
Yes, Commissioner Buskerud, they will be getting back the entire amount.
And how much is the interest?
The entire amount. Of course. The redemption receipt amount is $12,521.75. And I don't have the interest broken down.
Okay,
But
thank you.
it's probably over between 1,200 and up. That's the interest amount. And they did pay the taxes, so the abatement check would go back to them.
Thank you, Janet. Is there any further discussion?
No.
Mr. Farabee?
No, this is refund for the 3 years and then abated for this year?
That's correct.
That's what the motion says clearly?
Yep.
It's a refund for 3 years and an abatement for the current tax year.
The current tax year's taxes haven't been paid, don't need to be paid, they're not due yet. So that will be an abatement. The previous year's will be a refund.
Yep.
But shouldn't we just go ahead and abate it now?
Yes, and it's one of the abatement requests before you. The previous year's will result in a refund. This year's will just simply be an abatement.
Okay, just so it's clear. Thank you.
All right, motion on the floor was by Hadcock and seconded by Farabee. Any further discussion? Do we need to read the motion back? You got the numbers, right?
Yes, I have the two law numbers.
Okay, the two numbers. It's to approve with those noted in there.
And to refund for 14, 15, and 16, and an abatement for 17.
Okay. No further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye, and a roll call vote, please.
Buskerud?
Aye.
DeSanto?
Yes.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
Aye.
LaCroy?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Next, we come to item 13, items from the Highway Department. Tom Wilsey, recognize Tom Wilsey.
Good morning, Tom Wilsey, Highway Department. First item is authorization to purchase corrugated metal pipe. We're requesting authorization to purchase corrugated metal pipe off the Beadle County bid. The True North Steel was the low bidder. We've reviewed the Beadle County specification. They meet our requirements. We attached the information from the bidding, affidavit of publications, and the commissioners, Beadle County Commissioners minutes that approved this bid.
Motion to authorize the Highway Department to purchase corrugated metal pipe from the True North Steel Company from the bid to Beadle County, awarded January 6, 2018.
Moved by Hadcock. Is that you, Ron?
No, Mark.
Mark? Is seconded by Mark DeSanto. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye, and a roll call vote.
Buskerud?
Aye.
DeSanto?
Yep.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
Aye.
LaCroy?
Aye.
Second item is authorization for letting a replacement of the Wall Highway Division fuel dispensing system. This was a carryover from last meeting. We've had problems with getting water in our diesel, and in order to check the tanks underneath there, we'd have to tear everything out from the pumps down to the concrete, everything, just to get to the tanks to check them. We feel that it would be better for us to put in new tanks, a new pump system that would be compatible with our current pump system in Rapid City. I included drawings of the current tank configuration with your packet, and also attached a drawing showing where we're proposing moving the fueling system to. We actually have looked at that and revised that since, and we're going to move it a little closer to the building so that we get the correct distance to our emergency shutoff, which will get us in compliance with fire codes. Estimated cost for the project is $200,000. I'm requesting an authorization for the Highway Department to let bids for replacing the fueling station in the Wall Highway Department facility.
Is there any discussion from the public? Seeing none. Board?
Motion is to request Highway Department to let bids for replacing of the fueling station in Wall Highway Department facility.
There's been a motion to approve. Is there a second? I'll second for discussion. Is there any discussion? I'll make a comment. Tom, I checked in on this just a little bit since I do work with a company that does do a lot of
and
this.
I appreciate that.
And I think you're correct. By going to the upper size, you're getting the full tanker, which you're going to get a better price for the fuel, number one. And moving the pumps, I've just had a couple guys spend 3 days trying to get water out of a system that's had froze up and so forth. So I understand how important that is in dealing with this. And I think I also checked on the idea of moving them out so they're not underneath the pumps is a plus.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to express that I did a little bit of background check on it, and it looks good. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, Mr. DeSanto.
I wanted to find out where the $200,000 is coming from.
We have it budgeted already in our system.
Department budget?
Yes. Highway Department budget. We had budgeted for it.
You had. Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Fairby, was you wanting to say something?
It's a lot of money for a fueling station, and I think everybody understands how I feel about government spending, and I haven't had a chance to check to see if DOT has a fueling station in the Wall area. It looks to me like we could join forces and save money from both the state and the county. That's a possibility. That's a lot of money for a fueling station. So I'll be voting no.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fairby. Mr. Fairby, can you speak into the mic a little bit too?
I would like to respond to that.
Mr. Tom.
I talked with the DOT and to get more information about what they have in the Wall system. They have a 2,000-gallon diesel tank and a 1,000 gas tank. We have records of our usage in 1 week. There was 1 week in August where we used 1,700 gallons. I feel that their fueling system is not of a size that would be sufficient for us to work with them. Plus, the system is 2 miles. It's on the opposite side of Wall. We're on the northeast side and they're on the southwest side. It's a 2-mile drive just to get to the fuel station. Also, our fueling system is also the way we monitor our trucks. With that, we can know when we have to DOT the trucks, when we have to do maintenance on our vehicles. And if we suddenly see a jump in usage, we know there's something wrong with the truck and we pull it in immediately. This is more than just pumping gas. This is the way we monitor our vehicles.
Thank you, Tom. So the motion on the floor is for approval. Did you have a follow-up, Mr. Fairby?
Have you approached DOT to see how old their system is and see if they might kick in some and have a central system in the Wall area? 2 miles is not very far.
He did not indicate that he was willing to move to use our system for the simple reason it's 2 miles away. He was hesitant to even say that we could use theirs.
Mr. Fairby.
Am I correct that DOT gasses up at Hill City?
Yes, we do. They do. That was part of our agreement for when we bought the tank, the property up there from them, that they would be allowed to use our fueling system there.
So DOT in Hill City is different than DOT in a wall. I don't buy that argument anyway. Thank you.
Okay. Motion on the floor is for approval. Further discussion, hearing none.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeSanto.
I have a little further question.
Yes.
I'm hearing George's concern on the cost of this, but I'm also concerned that we're going to wind up with additional repairs because of water damage. I'm pretty familiar with being in the trucking industry in the past of fueling stations and water in tanks and so forth and so on, but I like the idea of talking to the DOT, but Tom says he's done so, but I also understand trying to protect our equipment as well. I guess those are just some comments that I'm making. I'm thinking in my head while I'm making them. So,
All right. Thanks, Mark.
go ahead.
Ron, do you have anything you'd like to say before we?
No.
Okay. Motion is for approval. All in favor indicate by saying aye and a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Fairby,
No.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. Thank you,
Thank you
Tom.
very much.
Next, we come to item number 14 from Human Resources. Human Relations.
That's the other
It's
committee.
the same, it's the same thing, isn't it? Human Resources Relations. Okay.
They're connected.
John.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Morrow with the Human Resource Department. So today I have actually a proposal that includes 4 very distinct, separate motions that we'd be seeking. First is actually around the sick leave payout chart. The current program allows for payouts of less than 10 years. At the point employees would have achieved 3 years. This payout chart is actually the same payout chart that you would have viewed back in November and December at the meetings. Was pulled back for the date that I actually started with the county for review. So the first one, actually, as we take a look at that, would provide approximately $30,000 in savings. Last year, Sandy, our HR generalist, actually was able to collect some data. It showed that we actually paid out approximately $32,200 last year for people with less than 10 years of service. And then we're actually suggesting that this would be implemented for all employees beginning on January 1st of 2019. So that's the first piece of this discussion. The second piece of it is the sick leave policy payout proposal. Should I go through the motion piece separate with this, or how would you prefer?
Let's do, the board, do you guys want to go through each one separately and have discussion? I think that'd probably be the best way.
Because, yeah, they are standalone pieces.
Yes.
So.
I'd have no feedback, so we'll do it that way.
Okay.
So
the motion that we'd be seeking with that first one would be to implement the previously proposed sick leave payout chart beginning January of 2019 for all county employees.
does the board have any questions on changing that to the 10-year as we'd previously discussed? Seeing none, is there anybody, I'd look for a motion to implement the previously proposed sick leave payout chart in January of 2019.
Move approval.
Moved by Hadcock,
Second.
seconded by Buskerud. Any discussion? Seeing none, look for a motion for approval. Indicate by saying aye with a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Fairby,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Hey.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. The second piece has to do with the number of hours that would be allowed for payout. Our current structure doesn't have any minimum or maximum payout. In the research that we've conducted, we actually found that 480 hours is on average for comparable entities, the number of hours that would be considered fair. Looking at the data that we have currently, this would apply to any newly hired employees beginning in January of 2019, and we're asking that we'd consider changing our sick leave payout structure to be 50% of the first 960 hours earned. So currently we have 46 employees that have 960 hours or more. 25 of those have already achieved the 20-year plus. So again, on average right now we'd be paying about 719 hours per each of those 25 employees that have achieved the 20-year plus. We have 46 employees, as I mentioned, that are currently at 960 or above, which this would actually apply to. Their current payout right now is about 640 hours. So again, this would be a reduction of paid hours, reducing the expense to the county as well at the same time. Current payout amounts based upon those 46 employees that have achieved 960 or more is approximately $939,000. This would change that payout amount to $704,352, a savings of approximately $235,000 to the county once this would be implemented moving forward. Now, the piece I need to be sure that I explain is that this would be for newly hired employees moving forward. It would not change anything for existing employees.
And so we're going to see the savings in the future.
In the future, yes, sir.
Okay.
And then the motion that we're seeking with that would be seeking a motion to adopt the updated sick leave payout structure of 50% of the first 960 hours for future county employees hired in January 2019 or after.
Is there any questions from the board for John on this?
That'd be my motion.
Motion was made by Hadcock. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mark DeSanto. Comment?
I have one, Chairman.
Mr.
Chair.
Let him go.
Deb chimed in first. I'll get you after that, Mark.
Thank you.
John, I'd just like to thank you for all your work you and your assistant have done on this. This is a lot of work, and you've had your numbers down, and you've got all your information and the facts dialed in. So I appreciate all the work you've done on this, and it's impressive where you came up with and the results from it. So thank you, John, and what's your assistant's name again?
Sandy.
Miss Sandy. I apologize, Miss Sandy. Thank you for all your work, Miss Sandy, as well.
Thanks, Deb. Mark DeSanto?
Yes, John, I've seen some of these sick leave policies changed in the past in some of the other companies I've worked for, and I think this is a good idea. However, I wonder, are we going to encourage some of these newer people to go ahead and take sick time when they're not sick or whatever to use up their sick leave by doing this?
It's a great question, Commissioner. The reason we actually went with this structure is it allows for still unlimited accrual of hours. Had we put a maximum number of hours that they could accrue, I believe that would have been the case, because as they would have approached that maximum number, they would have been using the hours so that they would still accrue new hours. In this case, there's still no accrual limits. It's the payout limit once they get to that point. So they can still accrue 1,500, 2,000 hours under this structure, and they're available for their use if they have that catastrophic type of situation where those hours are needed. All this does is change the payout structure. So our goal with this was still to not encourage sick leave use, but still reward them for not using it with this structure.
Any follow-up?
I see. Good idea. No, thank you. I appreciate that explanation, John.
Thanks, Mark. Motion on the floor is for approval. No further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye and a roll call vote.
Buskerud?
Aye.
DeSanto?
Yes.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
Aye.
LaCroy?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. The third piece of the information here today is actually the sick leave transfer proposal. What we've discovered with our existing sick leave transfer program is that we're only allowing transfers of hours for the existing employee themselves. Just in my short time here, we've had 2 requests where we've had a seriously ill family member, actually spouses in both cases, of the county employees, and we've not granted any hours in the transfer process. They've already exhausted all of their personal time, their vacation time, holiday time, and yet they're still in need of additional hours. Our current program doesn't permit any transfer of hours in those situations. What I'm proposing, or what we've proposed as a group, I should say, is actually that we expand the use of the transfer program to include very specific family members. So this would actually include spouses and parents and children. And then also we'd be defining a number of things as well as we take a look at this. So that catastrophic and crisis events would actually be defined in the policy and in the handbook. They're not currently defined, and it's very subjective at this point as far as what constitutes a crisis or a catastrophic event. So we're bringing some definition to that. And then the third piece of this, actually, even though we'd be expanding the use of this, we'd be restricting the number of hours that could be transferred to really resemble or mirror FMLA law, if you will. Currently, our program allows for a transfer of up to 2,080 hours to an employee. That's an entire year of work. What we're proposing here is that we'd actually restrict that to 480 hours, which is actually the job protected leave amount that would be under FMLA law. So this would mirror that system. It would expand the use to additional family members, and then also would define what catastrophic and crisis is, so that we'd have some structure around when those would be approved or not approved. And then the motion we're seeking for this is to adopt the expanded sick leave transfer process that would expand the transfer request to include immediate family members of the employee and ensure a consistent review and approval process as described in this memo.
Thank you, John. Is there any questions from board members? Seeing none, I will make a comment. I know you guys worked hard on this, John, and the compensation committee and the board department heads, and so there was some great discussion. And I will share that that you and Stephanie had some actual meetings with the employees to go over some of these changes and what was going on, and so you've gotten some feedback and so forth. So this wasn't just like come up with in a short period of time. There was a lot of work and collaboration brought forward. With that, I'd look for a motion of Mr. Farabee.
You might have described immediate family members, and if you did, I missed it, sorry.
No, it's in the policy portion. I thought I had included here, sir, and I see that it's missing. So, oh, here, no, I'm sorry, under section A, 3A. So it says, for the purpose of this policy, spouse, children, and parents of the employee.
Okay.
I was looking for it myself and didn't see it, so thank you for asking.
And this is now, the employee is the third party, so to speak.
I'm not sure I understand, sir.
If a family member is sick, then the employee is not, another employee can transfer to the employee with a
Yes.
family member that's...
Under this situation, yes. Again, a restricted number of hours. So we're reducing the number of available hours from 2,080 to only 480 under this update. But it would allow them to be home to take care of their critically ill family member, if so needed by the doctor. So medical certification under FMLA would be still required. So again, it limits access to this. It's not just on a whim. It's very structured and very formal.
And if I might, Mr. Chair, then who's the referee?
Referee would be actually the department head and myself.
Do those ever come to the board?
Pardon me, sir?
Those decisions ever come to the board?
If there's a situation I believe we would disagree, I think those decisions could come to the board. But in most cases, I don't know that that would be necessary.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mark, you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay, Ron?
Yep.
Okay. I'd look for a motion for approval.
I would move for approval.
Moved by DeSanto. Seconded by LaCroy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye in a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. And the fourth piece of this actually is a piece around a proposed new benefit. When I researched this and we took a look at other entities, similar entities, there's 6 other counties currently in South Dakota that offer a bereavement benefit. Some of those have some of the restricted sick leave hours, some didn't. What I'm proposing, or what we've decided actually as a group, is that we initiate a new benefit for our county employees for their benefit at the time that they had a passing of a loved one. And again, very restrictive as far as the family members of the employee that would count. It would be the spouse, their children, their parent, and or siblings of the county employee only. This wouldn't be expanded to include their family members, or excuse me, their by law in-laws. It would be just for the immediate family members of the employee themselves. What we're proposing here is that we grant up to 24 hours of bereavement leave, specifically for bereavement leave, and this would be in addition to their current sick leave that they have, and they would be able to use that once per year. The data that we've collected around this as well. So last year, we had 25 employees that took time off for bereavement purposes, where they had the passing of an immediate family member. The average hour that was calculated, and this includes exempt and non-exempt employees for the county right now, is $23.90 an hour. Okay, so using the 25 bereavement situations that we had last year, and then the 24 hours that were granted out of their current sick leave time, that actually cost the county $14,340 last year. So it's not a terribly large expense, but it's one that when a person has a time of need, it's really necessary to help them cope in those situations. And I feel it would be something that would provide an additional benefit for our employees that would be respected and well-deserved.
Thank you, John. I'm trying to, the reason why you brought this up is because there was some give and take and so forth, and you thought it was, you felt by doing your study from around the area and coming up with what you did, and we didn't have it, and you felt that since
Yes,
we
sir.
reduced the numbers, this was just something that we could help with, and it does have a limit on immediate family.
Immediate family, and then again, once per calendar year, and then a maximum of 24 hours of pay that they'd receive in those situations. As I mentioned, there's 6 other counties in the state right now that do have this. In private industry, this is fairly common. Across other entities, it's fairly common. So as we did our research, just kind of a backstory, we actually reviewed 42 of the counties in South Dakota and looked at the data that they had around sick leave accrual, sick leave payout, maximum limits, those types of things. And then we also looked at 15 additional entities that were similar to us. So some of the same entities that were used in the Condrey wage study a few years ago. We reviewed some of those, and then I actually had conversations with some of their HR departments across the state to find out what processes they have used. But you're correct, sir, yes. Part of this is to offset what I believe was a significant change in some of the benefits we had for sick leave. And I thought this would be a way to actually, again, provide a new benefit that's not extremely costly, but one that those employees really would be thankful for in their time of need.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion from the board? Mr. Farabee.
Mr. Chair.
Well, I'll get you after Mr. Farabee, Mark.
You said
Thank you.
6 other counties in South Dakota.
Yes, sir.
How did their other benefit, I talked about a paid vacation, how did they stack up?
Right. I didn't bring all that data with me, sir. Those are the pieces that I don't have in my packet here, so I apologize for that. They were on my other summary, and I don't have those with me. But total benefits, what was interesting is, on average across the state, There's different accrual limits, there's other things around payout limits, and again, those 6 counties are some of the smaller counties that have the bereavement as well. So their funding sources are more limited than what we have, but I don't have that data with me, so I apologize.
Follow up?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Chair. To me, it's quite important. I think our paid vacation is quite generous, and we need to be comparing apples and apples, and not apples and oranges. So at this point, I got to vote no.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Farabee. Mr. DeSanto?
We've all lost loved ones, and we know what kind of stress that puts you through. And I believe that this would encourage people to take the time off to get their head straight. We don't want people coming back to work early because they can't afford to stay away, and coming back to work with possibly some psychological impact from a death in the family that could interfere with their ability to perform their job. If they're back at work with that type of problem, then they're of no use to us anyhow. And therefore, I feel I'll be voting yes on this.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman.
Mr. DeSanto. Ron, or did you want to go, Deb?
No, go ahead.
Ron, did you have any comments?
Yeah, I'll be joining George in a no vote. I think we have plenty of time off for them for sick leave that they can take that. They don't need any more benefits, frankly. The state employees have went 2 years now without a raise. So, we've been pretty generous with our employees. And if 24 hours of paid leave makes a difference in their psychological well-being or status, they maybe need more help than we're going to give them.
Thank you, Ron. Ms. Hadcock?
Thank you. I'm going to agree with Mr. DeSanto. I think that time off for 24 hours is, sometimes you might need more, and then maybe you can take your sick leave. But I think it gives us and tells us something for the employees that, we do care, and that something does happen. There is a policy that says, that you can take 24 hours. So I also forgot to thank the compensation committee and Ms. Steph, because I know Ms. Steph has done a lot of work on this, so I apologize. But I think you did awesome work on all 4 of these policies and good research, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think at this time, we don't have a motion on the floor. So
Motion to approve?
been moved by Hadcock to approve.
Mr. Chair,
We got a motion on,
sorry. Don't have a second yet.
not yet. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by DeSanto. Discussion, Mr. Farabee.
Just to be clear, it's not sick leave, it's paid holiday. And I think our paid holiday days are quite generous.
Oh, you're talking about the pay, okay. That's what, he's clarifying the paid holidays.
Other folks are talking about sick leave. Well, I guess you could define that as sick leave, but we have quite generous number of days for paid holidays, or paid vacations, not holidays, paid vacation.
Okay.
And if you're a reasonable, logical person, you probably set a few days aside if you have some members in the family that are in that situation. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, George. Motion on the floor is for approval. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye in the roll call vote.
Buskerud,
No,
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
No?
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. Thank you, John. I just want to state, you started January 1st, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The reason why I bring that up is because that was part of the job. We held this off, up at the sick leave and the benefits till the new HR was in place. And I think it's been a timely matter within 70 days, so.
Thank you all. Thank you,
Thanks.
Commissioners.
Motion to take a break till 10:30?
Do we want to take one that long?
Unless you have,
Half hour?
do we have any executive session we could take right now?
No executive session.
Okay. How about the legislation update?
Motion to go, take a break till 10:30. Are you guys that are teleconferencing in okay with that?
I am.
That's fine by me.
Okay, so it'll be 10:30. We'll start back up. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by DeSanto, moved by Hadcock. Take a break till 10:30. All in favor indicate by saying aye in the roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. Coming out of break. And we are on item 15 from planning and zoning. PJ.
Thank you. PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. Item 15 is the consent agenda. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. Item A, first reading and public hearing of Major Plan Unit Development Amendment 1801 for Deerfield Cabins LLC, and it's been recommended to be continued to the March 20th, 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting. Item B, construction permit 1802 for Black Hills Energy, and approval has been recommended. Item C, first reading and public hearing of ordinance amendment 1801 from Pennington County to amend section 204J3P, that requirements on-site wastewater treatment system, and approval's been, well, it's been recommended to be continued to the March 20th, 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting. Item D, first reading and public hearing of ordinance amendment 1802 from Pennington County to amend section 204J3P service providers, and it's been recommended to be continued to the March 20th, 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting.
Thank you, PJ. Is there anybody from the audience that would like items, any item from A, B, C, or D pulled from the consent agenda? Any commissioners?
Move approval of the consent agenda A, B, C, D.
Motion's been made to approve the consent agenda. Is there a seconded by Buskerud? Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye in a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. I hear something. Did we lose anybody? Okay, that was just your.
I'm here.
Okay. Regular agenda items.
Item E is vacation of section line 1801 to vacate section line right-of-way lying along track 39 of Rushmore Ranch Estates, and to vacate the section of right-of-way lying along track 32 revised of Rushmore Ranch Estates. The applicants are Ann and Tom Slaughter. They have power of attorney for all the landowners involved, and they are in the audience today if you have any questions. The subject properties are also currently involved in a layout plat process, which was approved by the board, and they have applied for a minor plat. What they're doing is consolidating these 4 lots that you see here into 3, and in doing that, the section line right-of-way, which you can see right here, would no longer be a lot line. It actually would be in the center of proposed track 32 revised A, and so they're looking to vacate that. In addition to that, a garage was built into the east 33 feet of the section line right away, so it would also fix that violation. The applicants did submit their signatures to the auditor, and on January 24th, 2018, Lori Severson verified that 335 signatures were received in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 3136. This was routed through the interdepartmental review, and no items of concern were returned, and Forest Service does support this vacation of the section line. There is access to the National Forest Service lands available, multiple accesses actually, to the north of this property. And vacation of this portion of the section line right-of-way will correct a known encroachment violation and will not increase any density or allow access where it doesn't need to be, and therefore staff would recommend approval of vacation of section line 1801 with 2 conditions.
I'll move approval.
Been moved
Second.
for approval and seconded, moved by Hadcock, seconded by Farabee for approval with 2 conditions. Any further discussion? Any from the audience? We're good? All in favor indicate by saying aye in the roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Yes.
LaCroy.
Aye. Motion passes. Next,
Next item is item F. This is a request for approval to amend an already approved building permit, which is COBP 170421 from Shadrack Howie. This was the one that is off of Bratsky Road. He came in and is requesting to add a basement. And since the Board of Commissioners were the ones that initially approved it, I'm just bringing it back before you. In our office, if someone comes in for an amendment, it goes through this whole process again, just to make sure nothing's really changed. With the addition of a basement, just bringing it back before the board for a decision.
Move approval.
it's been moved for
Second.
approval. Moved for approval by Hadcock, seconded by DeSanto. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye in the roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. Item G.
Item G and H are similar, but again, we'll treat them separately. These are additional requests submitted by the landowner Shadrack Howie for lots 4B and for lots 5B. The one you just approved was 3B directly to the north. This is an application for lot 4B for a single-family residence. This is a single story. They're looking to have 3 bedrooms in this house. This is the application packet, or 2 of the sheets for lot 5B. This lot actually has an unfinished basement. They have some bedrooms upstairs and bedrooms downstairs that are, again, unfinished, but are designed to be bedrooms in the future. Because these are off of Bratsky Road and under the same, staff still has the same concerns about these 2 additional building permits as we did with the ranch hand residence done by Lynn Gray and the previous approved building permit for Shadrack Howie. So that's included in our memo to you because of the concerns with the one means of ingress and egress, the presence of the special flood hazard area, the number of residential lots off of Bratsky Road because it is a dead-end road system, and the questionable stability of the bridge.
Thank you, Shannon. Any discussion from the board?
Chairman.
Mrs. Hadcock.
So PJ, how many building permits do we have out there right now that,
This would be
Could
4.
come in.
This would, these 2 constitute 3 and 4.
is there any other people that have?
Nobody that has applied. We do know people that want to, but we don't, until there's actual documentation in our hand, it's just hearsay.
But wasn't there something where these had lots or had approved, remember like 3B? Do you know what I'm saying with the,
So 3B is the one directly above 4B,
Right.
which is the building permit that was just amended.
right?
Yeah.
So didn't these lots be approved or something beforehand, and that's why we went through with 3B? And that these were 4B and 5B
I
were
believe
part of
that was some of the discussion.
And I thought there was areas out there that had the same issues. I think there was, 8 or 10 or something like that, that had the same situation as these guys that were gonna come in or could come in.
Correct. I believe that was some of the discussion that was had.
That answered my question, PJ.
I don't know what your reasoning for approving it was. That would be for you to say. Our reasoning for denying it is spelled out in the, or recommended denial of 4B and 5B is in the memo.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeSanto.
the question I believe Deb is asking is how many other lots are already or have already been platted in that area. Am I correct, Deb?
Yes, sir.
That's easy.
Thanks,
I don't know
PJ.
the answer. We'd have to pull it up. I could pull up a rapid map right now if you'd like to see it, and we can kind of guess.
Is that your wish?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
You okay with that, Commissioner DeSanto?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Well, then the mouse dies on us. Have any extra batteries? Sorry, the mouse just died.
Buddy.
single, double. See if we can. So in looking at this alone, every blue shape is a lot. Without going into the legal descriptions, we wouldn't know if it was platted or if it's legally described or what. So we'd have to go through Bradsky Road on its own.
Chairman, maybe.
Mr. Howie, do you have any input on other lots out there? Is these the last two in that development?
Yes, thank you. Just to clarify, there are no other platted lots in this subdivision, just if that was what you were.
Those two?
But you were asking off of Bradsky Road, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
So he's got clarification, these are the last two in this area, and Deb's question is there other lots in that area that might be coming forward?
Might be platted. Thank you, PJ.
No problem. Apparently Rapid Map's not working right now. Try to go through it back way. Would you like me to hum or sing or anything while we're on hold there? All right, so this is the public version, so it's going to work a little bit differently and harder to see. Okay, so this is where Bradsky Road meets 44. So again, each one of these shapes is going to be separate property. So there's the subdivision up here, which waiting for the pictures to load. Some point. I don't think Rapid Map wants to cooperate today. There you go. So it looks like there's a few properties there that are still vacant of any residential structures. And there's some of the properties here, again, not knowing if they're platted or not without looking up the legal description. Some large properties here with, looks like they have residences on them. This is the subject subdivision right here, which will be generated here in a second.
So if they're already platted, that's what I'm saying. If they're already platted, then to be fair, anybody that comes in that area should be able to be approved.
That would be your prerogative. Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeSanto.
This isn't cooperating with us today.
Obviously, without being able to see the map, I don't really know what you're looking at, but I'm wondering, are they on the Highway 44, the other lots, are they on the Highway 44 side of the bridge or on the opposite side of the bridge?
Opposite side of the bridge, south of it.
So they got.
And we don't know if they're platted or not.
Without going through each one individually for the legal description, correct. And Rapid Map doesn't seem to be cooperating right now with this.
Bottom line, good, Mark.
My opinion is that in regards to Mr. Howie's lots, and I understand that there's a possibility that we're going to have other platted lots come in, but I guess my opinion stands, even if we do have other platted lots come in, that these were approved to build upon. They were given plats, and I think that it's very unfair for us to refuse to allow for the building. I understand the concerns. Obviously, I understand the concerns, but that a previous commission made the mistake of not insisting on a second road, but I also feel that Mr. Howie has indicated that he is willing to help us in a way to draw an easement on that corner of Merlin Stromer's property so that there is an exit in an emergency. And I will need to get together with Merlin and confirm that that is an option, which I believe it is. And Mr. Howie's engineer could draw the picture and we could get an easement on that corner so there's a way out. But right at this point in time, I don't think we should stop. It's unfair. The man's been paying taxes on property that he had plans on building on, and we gave him permission to build on 4 commissions ago, I guess, or 3 commissions ago. So I would move for approval.
Thanks, Mark. So we have a motion on the floor, a motion made for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And there's a second from Mr. Farabee. It's a motion by DeSanto, seconded by Farabee. Further discussion, I think, since the second, do you have any discussion, or do you want me, Deb, have a follow-up?
No, go ahead.
Do you have a follow-up, Deb?
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroix. Just the 40-unit rule, I think from the city to the county, it's just like most stuff. I don't know how to say it on that rule, except that like you're in Thunderhead Falls, I understand a 40-unit rule. If you're on the open prairie and you can still get out and there's still ways in a certain way to be safe and not get flooded out or a fire or something else, to make sure these people got out safely. In this case, I believe that they could get out in a 40-unit rule, and that's why I'm going to approve lots out there for that reason, because I believe that, and hopefully for the future, we can get some kind of second access that's safer, but I believe in this area you've got open prairie, and I think the people can get out safely one way or another, so I will be approving this.
Thank you. Ron, did you have any follow-up?
I've already said my piece on what I think about these properties.
Okay.
And the applicants.
My comment would be this. You know, we have talked heavily on this subject for quite a while, and a lot of it's been brought up about the 40-unit rule, emergency exit, who pays for it, county or not. I think the 40-unit rule was put into place for the simple fact of what we've all been gone through today in the last couple of weeks with this. It brings it to your attention of what's going on in that area, and we need to address it. So, not saying that it's always right, but I think it coming to us and asking for a second access from the taxpayers to pay for something I don't think is right. But it brings it to our attention that if there's any further development out there, any more platting lots being made and so forth, that I believe the developers need to step up and find the second access for that and so forth. But that being said, that's what I believe the 40-unit rule is for. I think there's different applications all over the place, but I think that's what we're looking at. So those are my thoughts. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Farabee.
If what Commissioner DeSanto says about getting an easement for the corner of those 2 sections, the north-south and the east-west, if we can get an easement across there, then in essence we have a second way for emergency vehicles. And the big concern to me is emergency vehicles getting in. It's not so much people getting out, but emergency vehicles getting across the creek. And I feel quite confident if we can get that easement. The section lines already belong to the government, so all we need is the easement on the curve, so to speak. And the sooner that happens, the more comfortable I'll be with letting more than 40 units be placed on that property across the creek. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farabee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye and a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
No.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
4-1. For G and H?
Oh, the,
That was just for
that was
G.
G.
Okay.
So we have to do H is the same thing. Is there any more? Do you want to read it? Probably should read that.
I was just going to say, item H is a request for approval of building permit outside of county zoning ordinance from Chadwick County for Lot 5B. Has the same issues as Lot 4B.
Okay.
Approval.
Moved by Hadcock,
Second.
seconded by DeSanto. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye in a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
No.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye. Thank you, PJ.
Thank you.
Next, we come to item 16, items from the chair and commission members. Is there any items from commissioners? Mr. Farabee.
We need to revisit the petitioning policy. I got a call other night from that Tonchi was out here trying to petition, and they wouldn't let her inside yesterday. And I guess that's, to me, that was kind of inclement. I wasn't down here, but where I was inclement weather. And the policy on the board says there's an either-or situation below freezing. I think it was below freezing here yesterday. And, or rain or snow. That's the way I read the policy. So I guess what I'm saying is, let me back up. That's what the policy says. It's either this situation or this situation, and certainly it was below freezing yesterday. But that aside, at this point, who was going to be the enforcer? The sheriff or we, the county commission, through Holly? How should that work?
Well, you could assign it to the chair, or we could find out from Miss Michelle.
Well, I'll move that the chair gets to make the decision.
Well, then, when we bring a policy together, a package to approve,
Well, the policy's already there. It just matter who enforces it.
I'm going to recognize Miss Michelle first.
Michelle Hoffman, State's Attorney's Office. This is a little bit more complicated issue than creating a policy. It calls into question First Amendment rights with regards to not just where an individual may collect signatures, but picketing, other types of issues. So any policy that would be adopted does need to understand that, and I don't have the research right at my fingertips at the moment, but there's certain areas which are deemed open to the public and First Amendment rights, such as public sidewalks. And then from there, it's a question of whether the agency has designated certain areas, and then there's other designated areas for free speech, First Amendment rights. And then there are other areas, for instance, the courthouse at this point in time most likely would be considered private property, so individuals would not be able to picket around the jail. So again, without having the research right at my fingertips, I can't give you specifics. What I can tell you, it's a little more complicated. It's something that is on the radar with the Sheriff's Department as well as the State's Attorney's Office in terms of needing to come up with a consistent policy, not just in terms of gathering signatures, but picketing. Because once you open that area up to First Amendment, say the lobby of the county safety building, now are we required to open that up to anyone else? Picketers, other individuals who want to engage in other First Amendment activities. So something it's on our radar we need to look at.
Okay.
Ms. Hawley, maybe?
Well, we already have a policy.
I think that's always a follow-up from George's.
We already have a policy, and the way I read the policy is, the one that's up here on the board anyway, it's either, don't hold me to the exact words, but below freezing, and I think that's 32 and not 0. Or stormy weather. And yesterday, I'm guessing it was below 32 down here.
Okay.
And My issue, I guess, we already have a policy. So if it needs to be changed, that's it for another day. But for right now, I guess my issue is who should be the referee or the decider, and I'll move that the chair gets the call.
Okay, Ms. Hadcock's got the floor next.
Chairman, Holly, you were going to work on some of this stuff. I think Jordan had talked to you about it. And,
Oh, that was a different matter.
Yeah, we're mixing issues
Okay.
together.
Sorry.
It is a much bigger issue, as Michelle has explained. We need to do a comprehensive review of what our policies and procedures are. George is talking about what we have in place right now, and it's very clear what the definition of inclement weather is, and that is what the sheriff's office enforces.
Right.
Commissioner Farabee is questioning whether it should be me, whether it should be the chair, whether it should be the sheriff's office who goes upstairs and deals with the issues with the petitioners. I get involved when I need to. Most of them don't listen to me. They tend to get a little more serious when somebody with a badge and a gun is involved. But I work very, very well with the sheriff's office. They come and talk to me about the issues that are going on upstairs, reinforcing the policy that the board has in place right now. If the board wants to bring it up for the next agenda to look at the definition of inclement weather to amend that, we can certainly do that, but this is a much, much bigger issue that we need to look at and work at right now. We've just had so many other things going on that it kind of got put on the back burner.
Okay, Michelle.
Thank you. Michelle Hoffman, State's Attorney's Office. So to clarify, the Supreme Court has basically recognized three types of forum. Your traditional public forum, which would be the sidewalks, and individuals are allowed to picket and engage in other First Amendment activities. The second is a designated public forum, and the concern is if we're going to designate the lobby inside the building as a designated public forum for free speech, does that mean then we have to allow picketers into the lobby during inclement weather? And then the third is non-public forum. And I would argue that this building in itself, just because it's county-owned, does not make it a public forum. This building, the public administration building, including the courthouse and other county properties, are considered to be privately owned as any other property. But once we designate an area as public forum, then there's other rules that kick in, and again, they're more complicated. But we as Holly pointed out, I'm not disputing what Commissioner Farabee is indicating. There's likely a policy talking about allowing individuals to come in inclement weather and sit in our lobby. But again, it poses challenges, and we need to take a closer look at how we handle these First Amendment activities on county property.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Now, Ms. Hadcock, does that follow up?
good.
Mr. DeSanto.
I don't have the policy in front of me. I know a policy exists, but my question, I guess, would be under our current policy, I don't believe that it states that they can come in the lobby. I believe that they can come in between during inclement weather. They can come in between the two doors, basically to protect themselves from the inclement weather. I don't believe that it states that they can come actually inside the lobby of the building. I'm not sure. I'm not reading the policy right now, but I think we do need to get it on the agenda. And after George has a motion on the floor,
No.
I would
No, this is just subject, I think we can put it on our next agenda, but, yeah, we can do that. I think that's a good idea. Put it on our next meeting's agenda.
So I would make a substitute motion to George's motion that we put this on the next agenda and get it squared away. We got an election coming up, and there's going to be a lot of petitioners, so we need to get it figured out.
Michelle Hoffman, State's Attorney's Office. I certainly am in favor of addressing this issue. I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to have a comprehensive policy drafted in 2 weeks. I did draft a legal memo to Sergeant some months ago, kind of giving an overview of the issues, and I certainly could forward that to the commissioners just for educational purposes, and then we could move forward. But it's probably a several-month process in terms of coming up with overlapping policy. It doesn't mean we can't come up with an interim policy in anticipation of the election cycle.
Well, I think the intent that I got out of this is that Mr. Farabee wanted to review it. And I think between now and the next meeting, we'll set it on the agenda as a review of our current policy, not redraft a new one, but to review it and see where we're all at on that. That was the intent of you wanted to review it and come up with so we can all find something. Then if we have to give direction to do something different, I think that's what we do at the next meeting. Since this wasn't on our agenda, I think that's a proper way to go.
Mr. Chair, that is correct. I want to review it and make a decision who's going to be the referee and probably determine, if it's not already determined in the policy, what inclement weather is. Yesterday it was just above freezing. It was 33, but we had 57-mile-an-hour wind gusts and 30-mile-an-hour sustained winds. So.
Okay. Mr. Farabee, do you have a follow-up?
Well, I had two issues. Number one, we need a review, and secondly, we probably should have decided a long time ago who's going to be the caller, the referee, and right now, informally, I think we ought to. If the folks that are petitioning now, and I'm not on either side of this, by the way, I mean it's the Civic Center deal. I recommend that the calls come to you, and not without a gun. I mean, you can't have a gun though.
That doesn't work, but Mark made a motion. I think to answer Mr. Farabee's question, I think Holly did a good job. It's been working out between the sheriff and the office of what the weather is. I think at this point in time, we'll continue on with that, but we're going to put this on the agenda for review so the commissioners can review it themselves and kind of go over it and maybe come up with some ideas of what you consider inclement weather. I think we need to come up with some good classifications for that. Mr. DeSanto had made a motion for that. I don't know, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Farabee. So we'll do that. Everybody's under understanding?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. DeSanto.
In the meantime, because there are petitioners working right now, in the meantime, can the chair recommend to the sheriff that if we've got inclement weather like we did yesterday, that the petitioners be allowed in between the doors there where the kiosk for registration on cars is? Can that be is that possible?
No, I think we create some problems when we do that, as Michelle had stated. And number two, to make a decision like that on the fly, what I would say, I think that was more a fun statement that I made with Mr. Farabee, but having an elected official make a decision on that could have some negative effects, which I wouldn't want to be putting myself into. But I think,
okay, well,
you know what I'm saying? So I think the motion on the floor is a good one, and I think we need to review this current policy that we have.
All right, let's vote.
Okay.
Well, I got to.
Mr. Farabee.
I've got to have to make a comment in that regard. I think we have a policy about the elected official calling off or closing the building in bad weather, inclement weather. So how is that any different than an elected official calling the shot up here?
That's in statute. A little bit different. We're talking about apples and oranges here now, but the sheriff's office and I try and do our best to work with everybody upstairs. We understand everybody has their rights, everybody has their wishes. We can't put them in between the glass. They block the flow of traffic. We'll get in trouble with the fire marshals. We can't block the SST machine. We put them inside, right around the corner, so that they're out of the flow of traffic, but they can still access people. We do our best to work with everybody. We just have had so many issues over the years that we had to define inclement weather, because the second somebody got cold, they wanted to come inside. Well, there are a lot of people in the world that don't want to deal with petitioners. They don't want to be bothered. They're coming to our building to do their business. So we constantly are trying to find that delicate balance to support both sides. And we will continue to do that until we get a policy and a procedure in place that the board is supportive of.
Okay.
So we'll continue to do that until we're directed otherwise.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. So the motion is to bring it to the next Board of Commissioners for review.
And in the meantime,
I'm not dealing with it in the meantime. We have a policy set up right now, and I think they're working with it, and I think everybody's expressed what they feel is acceptable for inclement weather, so.
In the meantime, it's still gonna be the sheriff. He is the one that has the arresting authority. I can't tell somebody to leave our property. He can, and his deputies can. I don't have that authority. So I still support having the sheriff enforce the policy of the board.
Okay, that was his clarification, to be the sheriff at this point in time.
I disagree.
That's what life's all about. We can agree to disagree. Okay, motion on the floor. All in favor indicate by saying aye in the roll call vote.
Buskerud?
Aye.
DeSanto?
Yes.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
Aye.
LaCroy?
Aye. Okay, committee reports. Anybody got anything they want to report? Seeing none, moving on. 2018 legislative session, Ms. Holly.
The only quick update I have for you today, I got an email from Ted at 911. Senate Bills 98 and 99 have both been passed out of the House and Senate and are on their way to the governor for a signature. Senate Bill 98 was the bill to remove the sunset clause on the 911 surcharge and leave it as $1.25 going forward. Senate Bill 99 allows counties to get information from the Department of Revenue on the 911 remittance from the phone companies so they can better detect an address when a phone company is not remitting 911 surcharges correctly. Other than that, I think everything else has gone smoothly and session's almost over.
Thank you, Holly. Any comments from the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 19, approval of vouchers.
Move approval.
It's been moved to approve vouchers. Is there a second? Second by LaCroy. Moved by Hadcock, seconded by LaCroy to approve the vouchers. Any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Farabee.
Even though this is just a small package, there's still, to me, wasteful spending in here, and so I'll be voting no again.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye in a roll call vote.
Buskerud?
Aye.
DeSanto?
No.
Farabee?
No.
Hadcock?
Aye.
LaCroy?
Aye. Next, that brings us to items from the public. It looks like we have a few people in the public who want to make public comment. So please come up and introduce yourself, and this is your time for public comment.
I'm Petru Vashteyu. Haye. That means have a good day. And I won't address morning or evening, but just wishing you a good day in Lakota. And I'm Tanya Stans. I'm a Rapid City resident, and I'm from I'm enrolled in the Oglala Sioux tribe. What I want to address is that we had previously inserted TIPO into the application process previously, and that was all done, finalized. What I want to bring up, though, is that it looks like on my copy, page 14 of 18, under the mining ordinance, duration and renewal of mining permits. And so right there, just as well as the application process is including the TIPOs, the Tribal Historic Preservation Officers, that in that process of the duration and renewal of these permits, that also that the TIPOs are inserted in there so that they can look at these already existing permits in their area of, back to the section 106, NEPA Act, that they take a look at that sacred site because it hasn't been previously addressed, that when they renew these, that these are addressed. So I just want to, sorry, I forgot to turn it off.
You're okay.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to add to this step in there before the finalization.
Thanks, Tanya. And I'll have to read this just so everybody knows, is that the public comments is a time for the members of the public to discuss or express their concerns on the Board of Commissioners on the policies and issues affecting the county government and its function. Action will not be taken during this time on any issue brought forth that are not properly noticed. So this is just a public comment period. We can take no action. It's just a time for you to express yourself at this
Oh,
point in
okay.
time. That's what public comment is at the end. If there's if there's an item that you really wanted to address, you contact Holly and have it put on the agenda.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so that will be addressed next, when's the next meeting
You'd have
for
to get-
the mining ordinance?
No, the mining ordinance
Is done.
is done.
Okay.
I'll recognize Ms. Michelle.
Michelle Hoffman, State's Attorney's Office. We've been informing individuals who desire additional changes to the ordinance to be aware that they can seek an amendment to the ordinance. Once it's in effect, once the 20-day period for possible referendum expires, then under zoning ordinance, there is a provision where any private citizen may seek an amendment of the ordinance. So it's not that that amendment can't happen, it just has to wait till the ordinance as approved at the second reading becomes effective.
Okay. And update me on the second reading?
That occurred last week. The second reading was approved
20th.
on
Or no,
27th.
27th, yes.
Last Tuesday.
Okay,
So
so,
20 days from then.
But I can meet you in the hallway and provide you information on the process on how to seek an amendment.
okay. All right,
Thanks,
sounds good.
Tanya.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Is there any further public comment? Thank you, Michelle, for helping them out.
One more.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Angel. I actually work for THPO. I'm a cultural surveyor, and I've actually been at archaeological digs. I do digs every summer too. So whenever you talk about what SHPOs are saying and how they are allowed to,
Cheryl,
how they're allowed to.
could you use this one? You're really light spoken, so.
Okay, so
There you go.
one of the major problems in developing the Black Hills is that the state SHPOs do not have the knowledge that the tribal historic preservation officers have. So that entire that base of knowledge isn't looked at. It doesn't have a place in the development, and that's why here twice now, and why Tanya and all the rest of the people here is because that needs to be recognized by the commission and the county. And one of the things I was really relieved to learn about when I looked at the Doll Center is that they came up with a cultural plan. And it took them a while to develop it, but it's in place. And one of the things, one of their goals, because they have a few of those goals, one of those goals is to honor the Native Americans' inherent rights and to support Native American organizations. And so I look forward to working with this commission and hope that it's written somewhere in their policy that the cultural relevance of this area is taken seriously, not just like a tourism aspect of the economy. It's more than that. That place is sacred. It literally is, because that's where we come from. All the animals that are on your open kill season 24/7, 365 days of the year, all of them, they came from there. That's their birthplace too. And what we learned when we came here, when we emerged onto this paradise, we didn't know anything. And who was it that taught us how to honor the water? Who was it that taught us how to live in harmony with the land? Who was it that did that? The animals did that for us. Everything that we learned, the way that we treat the water, and we hold space We remember that when we came here, we were homeless, and then we got to this paradise. But the badgers were here, the elk were here, the deer were here, the buffalo here, the fish were here, the eagles. They were already here, and they already established that balance, and they knew their place. We had to come here, and we had to learn from them how to treat this planet and not harm it. And so I need the commissioners to understand that there is a way, a better way to live in harmony with this planet. And it involves seriously protecting that water and being mindful and diligent about making sure that that permit that was allowed to do the exploratory excavation there, that those conditions, that they be monitored and that that company be held to those standards. Because we're playing with the future lives of people who haven't even been born here. We already know that the gold mining industry has killed a river already. In the 1980s, the governor had to sue a mining company to make sure that they didn't abandon a mine, because they were just going to abandon it, and they were going to leave it as it was. Our governor did that for the state's people of South Dakota. You know, so there's a lesson from one of our leaders on how to protect. So I'm holding you to those standards of protections, not just for the economic, money that's going to come in and that has already severely damaged the area with the open mining. I'm holding you to that level of responsibility to protect, the silent nations that don't get to speak, and to protect the water, because Tanya is correct. That man who did the study on the water, the contamination, it's going to come straight to Pactola. And then what? There isn't a plan to save Pactola. We have to prevent it from happening. So preventing this from happening is what I'm asking you to do, by being very stringent in the permitting process and reaching out and including the THPOs, because we know where their sacred sites are. We know why it means so much to us. Our ceremony is in the hills. That whole place is sacred. That's the birthplace of all the life in this area. That's why we revere it so much. And the permitting process has allowed the contamination of water, and that needs to stop.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
See no further public comment. We have no executive session, so I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Hadcock,
Second.
seconded by Busker to adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye, and a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
DeSanto,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you, folks.